So on Friday we talked about rounding. So number lines was one way that we talked about how to round. So what is the midpoint in our number line? For the number line 20 to 30, what would be the midpoint for the number line? Danny?
25.
So 25 would be our midpoint. So if the number is 25 or greater, what are you going to round the number to? Hope?
30.
30. If it's 24 or less, what are you going to round it to?
20.
20. Excellent. So we have the number 28 marked on this number line. What are you going to round it to? Jackson?
30.
So 28 would round up to 30 if I'm rounding to the nearest 10. On this number line, we have the hundreds marked. We have 200 to 300. So what is the midpoint for my hundreds place? So on this number line, if I'm going to round to the hundreds, what is the midpoint or the halfway point, Emma?
250.
Good. So if it's 250 or higher, what am I going to round it to? 250 or higher. Marianne?
The next 10? Like, 3. Can I say the number? 300.
300. Excellent. So if it's 250 or higher, I'm going to go to 300. If it's 200, if it's less than 250, where am I going to round it to? Colin? 200. Good. Does anybody know what place I've marked there in the green? Anybody know what place I've marked there in the green? Hannah?
200 and... No, 200.
Close. You got the digits right, Carly?
220.
220. So this is 220. So what is 220 going to round to? Ellie? 200. So it is closer to 200 than it is to 300. So if you ever get confused, a number line is a great way to use for rounding. The other way we talked about for rounding is we can look at the place value. And what number, does anybody remember, we're going to talk about place value, but when we are looking to the right of the number, what's that magic number that will tell us whether we round up or down? Up or down? Hope. Not the place value, but the number when I say, for example, if I'm going to round this to the nearest tens, and I'm looking to the right, what is the magic number that tells me what I'm going to do with that 7? Hope. I couldn't hear you. Jackson, what am I going to do?
You're going to round it to 7.
And why am I going to round it to 70? I agree with you. I'm going to round it to 70. But when I look at the 7, I'm rounded to the tens place, and I look to the right, there's a 2. Why did you choose to keep it as 7 and not go up to an 8?
Because 2 is closer to 7 than 8.
Good. Our magic number is a 5, right? If this was a 5, then I would go up higher, right? Now, if I'm going to round this 78 to the nearest tens, I look to the right, and what number is it? Hannah? 8. So it's greater than 5, right? So I'm going to have to do what to the 7?
8 and the 80 and then
Good. I changed the 7 to an 8. You're exactly right, and make the ones place a 0. Now we're going to round this to a hundreds. We're going to round to the hundreds place. So which digit have I underlined in the hundreds place? Holland? The 4. So I'm going to look to the right of the 4, and what is the digit to the right of the 4? Danny?
30.
It's a 3, so it's less than 5. So what am I going to do with the 4?
Keep it a 4.
I'm going to keep it a 4, and what am I going to do with all the digits behind it?
Turn them into 0.
Good. And we talked about with a number line that 430 is closer to 400 than it is to 500. Now, where we're going to go today that I think is probably the trickier part of our lesson is I'm going to ask you to round 557 to the tens place. Not the hundreds, but the tens place. So why do you think I've underlined that second 5? This is my tens place. Excellent. So this is my tens place. If I look to the right of my tens place, what is the digit in the tens place? Emma?
7.
So it's greater than 5. So what am I going to do with that 5? I'm going to do what?
Make it a 0.
Not make it a 0.
You're going to add 1.
Add 1. So I'm going to make it a 6. And then what am I going to do behind it? What do you think I'm going to do with that 7? Anybody know? What do I do behind it? Make it a 0. So 557 rounded to the tens place is 560. Now let's try this with 232. I've underlined the 3 because it's in the tens place. Do you think I keep that 3 the same or make it a 4? Danny?
Keep it the same.
I keep it the same. Why do I keep it the same?
Because 2 is closer to, well, 2 is closer to 30 than 40.
It's closer to 30, and it's also less than 5. So I'm going to keep the 3 the same, and what am I going to do with that 2?
Make it a 0.
Good. So 232 rounded to the tens place is 230. So we have rounded to the tens place, we've rounded to the hundreds place, and now we have rounded a hundreds number to the tens place.